It's a very serious situation going on. We are under a blizzard warning. It's Wednesday night, and I am packing for my parents' house because I will be there for at least 5 days, possibly more depending on the severity of this blizzard. What does that mean in terms of books? 5 days. I need options. I might get Christmas presents that are books, but you never know. So, thinking 10 books, 5 fiction, 5 nonfiction. All right, this is what I'm bringing as far as nonfiction. So we have Possessed, which is gonna help me not buy books. Enchantment, which is a arc, and I love Catherine May. Daily Rituals, Women at Work, which is gonna help me with any New Year's resolutions or life changes I wanna make. Plows, Plagues, and Petroleum, which is going to help me with climate change and this huge blizzard we're going to be in and not buying books. And What's Your Pronoun, which is the one that was uncovered for me when I got the wrapped book from the library. Do you think those are good choices? Amelia, do you think those are good choices? Yeah, they're okay? They're pretty solid choices. All right, and now for fiction, Love Songs, which is basically about 20 books, you know? And then Agatha Christie. This is The Mysterious Affair at Styles, because I thought it would be fun to do a Christie at Christmas, and one of my former students got this for me, and I'm just so excited to snuggle up in PJs and read this around Christmas time, possibly in the sauna. Okay, and then I was like, okay, that's probably good. Let's be realistic here. Love Songs is 25,000 books. So I just picked some shorties, because shorties are going to help me unhaul books by reading them, or at least get my TBR down, not necessarily unhaul, because I'm going to keep them most likely. But I got Pizza, which is recommended by Jen Campbell. And then The Red House Mystery, which I think was recommended by Jean, but I'm not sure. Maybe not. Maybe that's a complete lie. And then The Sister Who Ate Her Brothers, which is by Jen Campbell too. The other one wasn't by her, she just recommended it. But anyway, I am very excited to read this book, and I just feel like a blizzard is the perfect time to be locked inside with, a book like this. Kind of magical, maybe, a bit creepy. Hey people, it's just me. I'm sorry you're scared. There is a blizzard coming. That's what you should actually be scared of. But I thought I would take today's blizzard preparations and tell you about the amazing books I read this year, right? My top 10. So without further ado, let's start with number 10. Yeah, number 1 is gonna be my top. So they are in order. However, I would say 2 through 10 are pretty equal. It's just number 1. That's my definite top. So book number 10 is The Viral Underclass, and it is by Thrasher. I think his name is Steven with an initial, Thrasher. But that book was just incredible, like all of these are, so I should probably stop talking about that in that way. Anyway, so this is nonfiction, The Viral Underclass, and essentially it is about the fact that there is a group of people, Black people, who are basically more at risk with any sort of disease, illness, virus, medical complication, anything. It does go quite broad, although it's mostly focusing on HIV and also the most recent pandemic. So Thrasher, I believe, investigated and did a lot of work with HIV, but now that the pandemic is here, or was here, or nobody really knows, he decided to focus on that as well and just show how that negatively impacts Black people more than it does white people or other groups of people, including other minorities as well. Absolutely fascinating about, obviously that Black people are at greater risk for getting COVID, dying from COVID, all these things, but just all the research that went into the book and just everything that he added to it and the way he wrote it, it was just absolutely incredible. And I definitely feel like it's an underrated book for 2022. It did come out this year, so please read it. Please purchase it. Like, it was amazing. Okay, this is the current packing situation. A sleeping bag for added warmth, and the Christmas presents are in my car currently. But we are about to have a blizzard, so I will show you my other packing stuff. This 31 bag is our emergency supplies, which obviously includes a tripod to document this blizzard, and everything else we need, including emergency food, water filter, etc. This is my normal packing, which is clothes and the usual things you bring for a vacation. And this is my bag of entertainment. I think there's 11 books, and my journaling stuff. And 2 winter coats, you know, just in case. You can never be too prepared. This is Fjällräven, and that one is Patagonia. Last night, I literally had like every power outlet going, charging stuff just to make sure, including my power bank that I use for backpacking. So essentially, this is going to be like a backpacking trip, but with more books. Today, I'm wearing the shawl that my friend Tammy, whose house I went to yesterday, she got me this for Christmas. Okay, so next up on my list of top favorite books, book number 9 is Elena Knows. This is basically the story of a woman with Parkinson's who finds out that her daughter has committed suicide and is not believing it. She definitely feels like there's something more sinister going on and that her daughter was murdered. Follow Elena through the course of a single day as she basically tries to investigate her daughter's murder herself because nobody's listening to her. The police are not listening to her. Her daughter's friends and acquaintances are not listening to her. She's the only one that believes that there's something more to this story than a suicide. And so she's going all over town trying to investigate. What I really liked about this book is just how much Parkinson's had a role in it. Instead of the traditional chapters that are often found in a book, this shorty is split up based on Elena's medication schedule, which gives it a really interesting vibe, and just you see how her movement is more successful or less successful depending on where she is in her medication cycle. So as someone whose dad has Parkinson's, I deeply connected to this book. And the other thing that's amazing about this book is because I am a person basically who loves the big feeling books. But with that being said, for some reason, even though those are what I love the most, I tend to be more of a plot-driven person. And I just felt like this had all the big feelings and all the amazing internal thoughts, but you did have this murder mystery or suspicion of a murder to kind of pull you along. So it wasn't plot-driven by any stretch of the imagination, but just trying to solve the mystery did pull you along. So number 8 is One Station Away by Olaf Olafsson. He is an auto-buy author for me. He is Icelandic, and he also, I think, lives in America some of the time. He writes either in English or Icelandic, depending on his mood, and then the book is translated into the other language. So One Station Away is about a doctor who is kind of studying locked-in syndrome, where for various reasons people are unable to show with their body that they are awake and alert, but their minds are active. And it is about him kind of conducting all sorts of studies on them, just trying to figure out more and learn more about them. But it's also about access and privacy and basically like what right he has to study them, and about their rights as a person even when they are locked in. And if I remember correctly, there's a few different storylines that are kind of intertwined together that all are sharing similar themes, but it has been a while since I've read it. Okay, so my next book is book number 7, The Dumb House by John Burnside. That book is a hot mess. Like, you have to buckle up for that one. Get your mind right, as Dee Dee says, because it's very, very intense and very, very dark. Basically, it's about this guy who kind of questions two things and is kind of researching both of them. One is about the acquisition of language and on if people learn language like innately from God, or if it's from actually hearing the language from people around them. So he's researching that. And then he's also looking into like the very moment of death when a soul leaves the body. And so those are basically like kind of the two things going on in the book, but super, super dark and amazing, super amazing. Okay, you guys, I have to hurry because I'm supposed to be going on a walk right now. But number 6 is The First Day of Spring, which is basically about a child who you know has committed a murder of another child. And you have to kind of figure out what happened, like why. It's very dark as well, but I loved it. It's like barely snowing, but the snow has officially started. The snow is coming down even more now. It's still super light, but it's just fun to like watch this storm coming in. So book 5 is Grant Park by Leonard Pitts Jr. He's the same author as The Last Thing You Surrender. And it was fast-paced and insane and mostly plot-driven, but a lot went on too, where you could deeply discuss certain themes. And there was a lot that was absolutely hilarious while also kind of getting at more serious things that the author wanted to comment on. Basically, it's a story of a journalist in Chicago who was told that he couldn't publish this specific article about racism. And whatever, all is well and good until one day people wake up and guess what's on the front page of the paper? This article, which this journalist was not supposed to publish. So all this crazy stuff ensues. Somebody is taken hostage. It's just like an absolute insane, fast-paced, adrenaline-filled book, and it's just so good. The snow is really coming down. It's so beautiful. So I think we're to book number 4. And book number 4 is Kindred by Octavia Butler. Kindred basically tells the story of this woman who is black and she's married to a white man, which kind of plays into the story a bit, and they're just living their best life. And all of a sudden she's freaking sucked into a different time period. She goes back to like the 1800s or something to save this white kid, I think from drowning is the first thing that happens. And basically she keeps getting like sucked back in time. She'll go back for a little bit, she'll get sucked back, and so she gets to experience what it was like to live in the times of slavery as a black woman. And then at some points her husband also goes back and is able to see, like from the perspective of a white person, what it was actually like for his life for his wife to go through that kind of life and just have such close proximity to that situation, which is really interesting to figure out, like, why does she keep going back in time? It appears that she's like tied to this white kid in some way. She keeps having to rescue him. He keeps getting into trouble, so to say, but mostly it's just like dangerous situations because you're living in the freaking 1800s. Anyway, such an amazing book. 5 stars. All of these are 5 stars, but dang. It's also a series on FX right now, so if you live in the United States and you have Hulu, or you want to get Hulu for like a month, like I did, then you can watch it. One thing I will say about the series, which I've only watched one episode of, is that basically they changed kind of a lot of like the setting. Like I really like the acting and the characters and like the set and all that stuff, right? That's all good. But they made it so that she's not married to this white guy, but she's dating him. I just felt like that really switched a lot of the experience, and kind of also made the main character look a bit crazy, which she obviously totally was not crazy. So I don't know, I just feel like it adds a different flavor. Look at you. Okay, so book number 3 is Mouth to Mouth by Antoine Wilson. It's basically the story of these two guys that are stuck in an airport, and basically one of them realizes that he recognizes the other one from high school or college, I think college, and they haven't seen each other in so long. So he introduces himself and like says hi. It kind of, to me, honestly seems like the other guy doesn't even remember him, but pretends to, and basically wants to share a story with him. So the guy who's pretending to recognize the other dude has VIP access to like this lounge or whatever, and so they go in there to chat. And basically the whole book, which is a shorty, is the rich guy telling the other guy a story that he's basically wanted to tell to somebody forever. And I loved it. It felt kind of like The Gentleman in Moscow, where I just felt like we were just enclosed basically in the airport in this case, hearing a story. And it was just so cozy, so comforting in some ways, until you get to the end and you're like, holy shit, what just happened? I loved it so much.
And now we're gonna get eggs. I forgot to tell you that, Karen.
I saw him.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go.
Don't worry, they all do the same thing.
Okay, the second best book is so amazing. For it to be number 2 means that number 1 is like epically amazing. So number 2 is Lonely Castle in the Mirror, which is basically about a student who does not go to school because of anxiety. She lives in Japan. She switched from a regular school to like an alternative school in an attempt that would help with her anxiety and that it would be just like a better situation for her, but she still is unwilling to go to school. And all of a sudden, when she's in her room one day, her bedroom mirror starts to kind of glow. And basically, it's like a porthole sort of thing into this other school that is in a castle. So it's like Lonely Castle in the Mirror. But anyway, there's all these other kids there, and they are welcome to go there during school hours, which apparently is 9 to 5. But they have to be out of the school by 5 p.m. Or this wolf will come and get them. And basically in the castle, it's like not really a school, but in the castle, there is this key, I think, that's hidden, and they have to find it. However, once one person finds it, the whole scenario like disappears. They will forget they ever have been in the castle. They will forget the friends that they've made. And yeah, that is pretty much it. And so they just like are all really gung-ho to find the key. And as they go on throughout the book and as they form like really close friendships, no one really wants to find it because then it means that this whole thing would disappear. And there are a lot of twists in there, and it's just like such a powerful book, especially if you work with teenagers, if you know or work with people that have anxiety about school. It was just like so powerful and dealt with like a lot of really important themes and things that are going on in our world today. And finally, the moment I have been waiting for all year, my favorite book of 2022, and that is The Blue Tent by Richard Gwyn. Gosh, guys, I don't even know what to say. Basically, this book really starts kind of with a library. This guy has inherited his aunt's home, which is kind of in a secluded location, and it has this magnificent library. And essentially he realizes that the only reason he inherited the house was for the library. Like that's what she really wanted to be taken care of. And his job is basically to take care of her library for her. He was given these unique directions basically to read one book, and that book would lead to another and to another. And all together, the books would make sense together. So this dude is like living in this house, basically living his best life, reading books all day, going on walks in the woods, when one day at the very, very edge of his property, he basically sees someone putting up a tent, the blue tent, to be more specific. He's like, what the crap? Like, why are they so close to his property? It actually turns out they're not even on his property. They're on the exact edge of his property, but still, you can't get any closer without crossing his property line. And he just decides he's gonna watch them like a creeper. So he goes on a walk in the woods, and he's just like spying on the tent and the person in the tent through the woods. And all of a sudden, like, the lady comes out of the tent and she starts walking towards him. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is impossible. This lady's walking towards me. Like, she can't see me. Like, I'm hidden. I'm spying in secret. Well, she like looks right at him. Like, she can totally see him staring at her. And she just up and walks straight into his house. He's like, what the heck? Like, who does this woman think she is? She's gonna up and walk into my house. Well, he leaves the woods and he goes into the house to figure out what the crap is up. And she basically says, shall we do introductions first, or shall I start the tea? And the story goes on from there. That's really all I want to say. It is just weird as crap, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And basically, even though this is a shorty, at the very end, I was like, I need to speak to someone about this book. So I instantly messaged Heather. I don't know if we talked on Instagram or VOXER, I can't remember, but like, I think VOXER. Like, I needed somebody to have read this book so I could talk with them about it. And because a lot of the books on my list are pretty obscure, Heather was really the only one that I knew I could talk to about it. And Heather was also the one who recommended it, which I'm so grateful for because it was absolutely amazing. One of the things that you don't always realize, except when you compare your books year to year that were your tops, is basically how much you've grown as a reader. So looking at my list, only 3 of my top 10 were written by Americans. Those are Kindred, Grant Park, and The Viral Underclass. And actually, every single one of my top 10 that were written by Americans were also written by people of African American descent. So that's kind of cool. Not intentional at all. I mean, I would like to think that I've been intentional about it, but honestly, I haven't. That's just what rises to the surface. Those are my favorite books. And then so my top 3 Americans were Grant Park by Leonard Pitts Jr. What was the other one? Kindred by Octavia Butler, and The Viral Underclass by Stephen W. Thrasher. The other books that made the top cut were written by somebody in Argentina, Iceland, Scotland, England, Canada, Japan, and Wales. The craziness has started outside. I will check in with you tomorrow. I'm curious if you guys have read any of these. Let me know your thoughts on them. And also, let me know any recommendations that you think you have for me based on my favorites from this year. I would love to hear what you think I should read in 2023. Bye, guys.